Good morning, everyone. This is Mike C. coming at you from beautiful, sunny Halifax, Nova Scotia. Today we're going to talk about bananas, everyone's favorite breakfast food, certainly one of mine. So, like usual, we're going to get right into it. So who knows where bananas come from? Any guesses? Well, we're going to take you there. So bananas originally come from the South Pacific, from Oceania. New Guinea, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, this little part of the world here. What I've highlighted is the main zone of diversity for the genus Musa. So, far back into the archaeological record, we find cultivation of Musa in this area, going back 5,000 to 8,000 years. Now this is the heartland. We see, again, the most genetic diversity of Musa here. And it's here where, in the highlands of New Guinea, we see some of the first domesticated Musa plants, and along with some of the first known agriculture in the region here. First known human agriculture is here in Cook Swamp in the Wagi district of New Guinea. So here, roughly 8,000 years ago, we have evidence of banana plants being cultivated, or early ancestors of banana plants. Musa acuminata and Musa balbanasa. Where we are is actually a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO site. We can see the archaeological record here. So, as we continue through the hilltops, this Musa genus is a great thing for humans to consume. It really is. It's fast to grow, only about 120 days or so from planting to cultivation for the fruit to grow. And the tree of the banana plant is not actually a tree. There's no wood involved. It's a series of tightly bound leaves. So it's easy to work with. It's easy to cut down and to harvest. The leaves can be used for wrapping things. It's kind of a old-fashioned saran wrap. So it's no wonder that our old school ancestors in the ancient days decided to harvest this stuff and make it one of the first domesticated plant species in human history. It's also very loaded with nutrients. These early bananas, plantains, and the Musa genus in general has a very high caloric and energy content. And again, it's easy to grow and it's a great food, right? So where do they go from here? The historical record is kind of hazy. History is always shrouded in mystery to an extent, of course. But we do have evidence of Musa cultivation in Southeast Asia and in Madagascar. Madagascar roughly 3,000 years ago. And this was most likely from Malaysian traders coming to East Africa during those olden days via dhow and whatnot, old-style ships. And the Musa plant, like we said, is a pretty wide range of appearances and styles. So you have everything from plantains to different types of bananas. The Cavendish banana that we're familiar with at our local supermarket was not around at this time, though. As we're going to see, that came up later on. So bananas first enter the historical record in India in Buddhist texts from the year 600. Sorry, that's 600 BCE, and we have some mention by Alexander the Great in the year 327 BCE as well. So pretty far back in history, we know that people were cultivating these, and they spread eastward and westward along these trade routes. And my favorite thing, for anyone who's seen a couple of my webcasts before, is this Pax Arabica. A lot of the foods we love and know today come from this time and place, these trade routes around Central Asia, the Arabian Peninsula, North Africa, East Africa, Spain, the Mediterranean. A lot of what we get in our local grocery store has its roots in this great Islamic empire. The banana is no different. By the year 900, we see evidence of cultivation of the banana in Palestine, in Syria, in the Sinai and Egypt, and basically the Mediterranean world in general. They're mentioned in texts. It's a fast-growing fruit, highly nutritious, and great. Nobody's really hating on the banana here. So the banana moves along these trade routes in North Africa, Tunisia, all the way to the moors of Morocco and up into Iberia, Spain. This is a similar journey, again, to a lot of foods that we've seen. And it's here in Iberia that things get kind of wild. Home of the Portuguese. We see that in the age of exploration, the banana factored pretty highly into the diets of a lot of explorers in Portuguese colonies globally. In particular, in West Africa and the Canary Islands. We see the Portuguese setting up sugar plantations throughout West Africa, Gambia, Senegal, all the way down the coast. And we believe one of the going theories is that banana is actually a Wolof word, from West African dialect. We see a town called Banana here, the head of the Congo River as well. Not to jump right to Joseph Conrad, but this is where he entered the Congo River from, putting the inspiration for his Heart of Darkness text, right? Now, on these sugar plantations, bananas were a source of food for the colonists and for the workers, the slaves, essentially. So back in the old days, bananas were not the main cash crop. They were something to eat, and because they grew tall, these banana trees grew up to 20 feet, they were used to shade other plants that were growing in the area. So it had a double effect of creating a bit of sun barrier, sunblock, as well as being a great source of food and energy for your workers. So the Portuguese expansion covered Africa, as we know, as well as Brazil. It's a pretty far trip across the ocean here. Yeah, a little too far to go by that route, isn't it? There's my little thing here. Can't find it. So we hop across the pond. We can see there was a real influx of banana plants to Brazil at the time, also for the sugar plantations. I've actually labeled a historic sugar plantation here in the Google map. But they really flourished here. The banana plants really took to the tropical, wet environment of Brazil, and then the colonial, Portuguese colonial areas of the New World. So much so that explorers and colonists thought they were a New World plant. And they really take off into the Caribbean and all over the place here in the New World. And as time goes on, the Portuguese colonial empires here give way to other colonial empires, namely the British and the French. And before long, we can see the development of a more modern banana plant here in the Caribbean. And it's in the year of 1836 that we see the first modern yellow banana show up on here, the island of Jamaica, on the plantation of a farmer named Jean-Francois Pujol. That's a real guess at the name there, so you guys might have to correct me on that. So, at the time, bananas were red and green and tough. You had to cook them. They weren't something you could pick off the tree, peel, and just chomp down like we do today. Back then, plantain-like fruit was what we were talking about. But Jean-Francois, on his farm, noticed that one of his trees was a mutated version of this. It had bright yellow fruit, and it had a sweet, soft, easily digestible fruit inside the peel. So he took a bite, passed it around, it was good. So what did he do? Like any good aggressive capitalist of the time, he decided to market this stuff. And this new yellow banana became more common and was soon to take the world by storm. And it's this development that brings us into our modern world of banana harvesting and banana consumption. because it's this discovery in Jamaica, and it's the opportune time of this discovery around this Industrial Revolution age and this age of increased transportation. We have better shipping. We have the development of better refrigeration methods. We have new, more advanced corporate structures for a lot of these companies that are going to be marketing and distributing this stuff around the world. So this is a time when bananas really start to come of their own in a more modern way. And it's these factors that really make bananas cheap for the world. Up to this point, bananas were not very common on the dinner plates in Europe and North America. They were expensive. They were hard to ship. They didn't keep very well. And they weren't familiar to a lot of Europeans and North Americans. Outside of these colonial plantations and subsistence farms in the tropics, bananas weren't really a very common thing. Jules Verne did start to popularize them in his book, Around the World in 80 Days. And it's after this that this fruit really starts to take off and become part of the modern menu in North America and Europe. And beyond this, we have an American to thank for the real spread and flourishing of the modern banana here. So it's in the year 1878 that a guy named Lorenzo Dow Barker embarks on a journey down to the Orinoco River. And it's on the way back up to Philadelphia that he realizes he has some empty cargo holds in his boat. So any logistics person is going to tell you this is a big no-no. If you're going to travel around and spend the fuel to move, you got to have something in the holds to slang on the other end. So what does he do? He stops in Jamaica and picks up a large load of bananas, yellow bananas. And he brings them back up through the Caribbean and up to the great city of Philadelphia, where he promptly sells them on the marketplace here for a huge profit and does very well. So well, in fact, that he decides to go into business with the Boston Fruit Company, which was to one day become the United Fruit Company, as we all know as Chiquita Brands International. They're still around. They're still with us today. So it's around this time that bananas really start to infiltrate the North American marketplace. And as the post-Civil War age goes on in the United States, bananas become more and more common in East Coast cities in North America. And through the railways, they become more common in the interior as well. And as we said before, they became very cheap. Due to good transportation, refrigeration, ease and plentiful production of these things, because they don't take very long to grow, bananas started to undercut even apples in the fruit sales on the streets of New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, and they really became a quintessential part of the North American diet. Cheap pricing never hurts, right? And another thing that doesn't hurt here is the timing. Now, this was a time in U.S. history where germ theory was really taking a hold of the public consciousness. We were now really aware for the first time that there are microscopic organisms that could hurt you or could keep you healthy. And this idea of eating healthy, of eating a diverse diet of fruits and vegetables, was for the first time really taking hold in the North American consciousness. For one thing, because of germ theory. For another thing, because of the logistics of transportation. Improved technology allowed us to have fruits and vegetables like never before. So the banana was a strong part of this. It came already prepackaged in a yellow peel, so no germs are going to be on it when you purchased it at the market. Didn't have to wash it, so it was just the perfect thing for this new American germ consciousness. And it flourished here in North America. But this flourishing in North America had real consequences down in the Caribbean and in Latin America. And it's down here, I'm going to focus on Costa Rica here, that we see the development of these banana republics. Now, I'm sure a lot of us have heard this term before, banana republic. Basically, the United Fruit Company and the Standard Fruit Company came in and through huge capital projects, building railroads, tearing up massive swaths of jungle, put in monocultures of bananas. So this increased demand had a major effect in this Caribbean region. Small-scale farmers who were growing a diversity of bananas gave way to large plantations of monocultures. Traders favored the Big Mike style of bananas. So when you go to the market, banana traders would see that the first ones and the most profitable sales were the big, juicy, quote-unquote, Big Mike bananas. So they planted these in droves, pushing out the smaller, red, green, more starchy varieties. So eventually United Fruit and Standard came to dominate the political structure of a lot of the countries that they operated in. And this is where the term Banana Republic comes from. It was coined by a guy named O. Henry. No joke. This guy's name was O. Henry in the year 1896. He was a famous author and satirist. But the term Banana Republic's really stuck. And it really, this epoch in Latin American history really altered the development of these nations. A huge influx of workers from the Caribbean came to work these plantations, as well as administrators from North America and Europe. Typically Anglophones were given the benefits here. They served a very exploitative purpose to basically get the most out of the land, get the most out of the workers, who were often put into debt to get there, to promised wealth and work, but ended up being paid in company dollars to shop at the company store, live in company housing, and stay in designated company zones. So before too long it became apparent that there was a real exploitative nature to these banana republics. And they were also very much symbolic of the United States strategy, global strategy at the time. Theodore Roosevelt's good neighbor policy came into effect in the 20th century. But prior to that, United States companies were pretty much running the show down in Latin America, putting these countries into debt, and often bananas were the forerunner here. Railroads created the ability to have a plantation just about anywhere and bring bananas to the coast to be shipped up to North America. And it was monocultures were the name of the game. Big Mike and other high-yield species were pretty much all that was being grown down here. It wasn't until after World War II that the United Fruit Company and others started to lose a lot of their value. And this was mainly due to revolutions in Guatemala, Honduras, Colombia, and of course Cuba. Local leaders and workers rose and demanded a greater stake in the banana trade. And by the mid-20th century, you see a breakup of these banana republics, that the legacy of inequality and worker exploitation still runs strong in Central America and the Caribbean. And, you know, as we were saying, these companies are still down there, right? Chiquita, Del Monte, Dole, these companies are still very much big players in the Latin American economy. So, let's look to the future quickly. What does the future hold for bananas? Well, the Big Mike banana died out in the 1960s due to something called Panama disease, which affects large monocultures. And whenever you have a monoculture, you open yourself up to not only big profits, but big risk. Because one disease, one bug could come in and wipe out everything. And this is what happened to the Big Mikes in the 1960s. Today we're eating Cavendish bananas. When you go to your local grocery store, Shaw's, Trader Joe's, Sobeys, Superstore, you're going to see Cavendish bananas in there. And that's the main one that's on the move, that's being sold in the world right now, in first world countries, quote unquote. And there has been several outbreaks of this Panama disease in these Cavendish bananas. So it is unclear whether in 20 years our descendants will be able to enjoy bananas to the same extent. But you know, this has happened before, and we've persevered. Bananas have persevered, and they've been with humankind for a very long time. And it's pretty safe to say that, in at least some form, this Musa genus will be with us, nourishing us into the future. So,